Sorry about my last two videos splitting up. If I can try to get those put together, I will. I'm not sure that it's a priority of mine, though, right now. So I titled this live feed, Guilty Verdict or Mistrial versus Guilty Verdict. There's like 5 really small dogs that just about got hit in front of me. Not from me, but somebody else. I feel like I should go help them, but I'm not going to. Okay, guilty verdict versus mistrial. You guys, Ammon and Ryan don't want a mistrial. Do you know what a mistrial means? A mistrial means everything stops and they sit in jail for another 6 months while the government takes all of the witnesses and the evidence that the defense has brought forth and finds a way to discredit them. Ammon and Ryan do not want a mistrial. Everybody keeps posting mistrial, mistrial. You guys, we've got to stop doing that. No mistrial. Mistrial means we start all over. Ammon wants a verdict from the jury. Even a guilty verdict means that they can move on to the Court of Appeals. Do they have much hope there? No, but it is better than a mistrial. With a mistrial, they could end up getting a worse judge and a worse jury. This is federal court. It doesn't matter what judge you have. One of the attorneys said yesterday, Judge Anna Brown is acting no different than any other federal judge. Once this case is over, study other cases, and you might find that you're right back to square one with fighting the corruption. This case and the behavior of this judge is not anything new in the federal court system. Ammon and Ryan, I'll say it again, do not want a mistrial. They both told me last night I can quote them on that, and I do get permission from them when and if I quote them on something. They want a not guilty verdict because they're not guilty. That's what they want. This judge is not going to let that happen. The government, I believe, put the defendants together in this group that they placed because they knew that the jury would see the evidence and want to set somebody free. It makes it very easy to look at David Fry and even Jeff Banta and some of these other defendants that knew nobody, that showed up just to support this protest. It makes it very easy now for the jury to say not guilty to them and hold Ammon and Ryan to a guilty verdict. Ammon wants a verdict. He does not want a mistrial. He wants the truth to be told, which is why the defense objects very little compared to the prosecution, because Ammon and Ryan have nothing to hide. They want the evidence to be told, the truth to be told, and they want this jury to speak. A statement one of the political prisoners made to me last night regarding the $100 million that was allotted for this trial is $100 million is not going to this court case. To paying for the administrative fees of this court case, meaning the attorneys and the lawyers and the office use. $100 million, most of it most likely is going to paying off the jury and witnesses. That's like fighting a really, 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 really bad uphill battle when you know you're up against $100 million. And we see already with the informants at the refuge what money will do to people. So the guys are not having a lot of hope in the system, but they still want a verdict so that if they are found guilty, they can move on to the Court of Appeals and challenge many, 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 many violations from the prosecution and from the government with the Court of Appeals and possibly be found not guilty. The only problem with that route is that that can take years. And meanwhile, these men who have committed no crimes, who literally had a sit-in at an unoccupied building, most of whom were not people who were armed. There's a lot of lies going on. A lot of the informants that were at the refuge were pushing to have people armed. This is what one of them told me last night, one of the defendants. That one of the informants is who pushed people to be armed visibly at all times. Even though Ammon said there is no need for that. We only have arms in case of an emergency, in case we are ambushed. We do not need to be showing our weapons. And one of the informants pushed for that. The informant that they came out with today, only because the defense called him to the witness stand. The informant, I can't remember his name, and I've posted about him all morning. Somebody post his name for me. He was the one who did the training. This is a big deal because the training was brought up at the beginning of this case in opening arguments by the prosecution. They also grilled Jeff Banta on the training when he was on the stand, bringing out how all this training he was doing. Why were you doing this training? Why were you learning how to pull people out of cars and disable them and disarm them? All of this happened because this informant came and said, I want to do training with you guys. That's entrapment. That training would have not happened. John Kilman, yes. Had John Kilman not showed up to the refuge, the training would not have happened. And the training was used against the defense. So it's a really big deal that they know who the informants are so that they can look back at what role those informants had in the occupation, like leaving guns at the refuge, kicking in doors, telling people to be openly armed, doing training that is now being used against them, reporting lies back to the FBI about what was going on at the refuge. Those informants need to take the stand. Sorry, that's not what this video is supposed to be about. But at the end of the day, Ammon and Ryan do not want a mistrial. They do not want a mistrial. They want a verdict, and they want to get out of jail. They've been in jail since January. We have rapists walking the streets right now. We have people who have committed attempted murder who are walking the streets right now who received bail. And we have Ammon Bundy, who's never been to jail, sitting there, being denied bail, not being allowed to have the witnesses that are against him come forth, his accusers, which is a constitutionally protected right. You guys, we have no constitution. We have no rights. We are being run by criminals. I don't care how many of you say they're good cops out there. One of these days, I'm going to be able to give a lot of information about just how much I know about police officers. But I am not anti-police. I am not. I show them a lot of respect. But I want them to uphold their oath to the Constitution. And any officer right now who is not fighting with us to set these captives free is not a good police officer. He's not making sure they're being granted bail. He's not making sure they're not having cruel and unusual punishment. He's not making sure that their accusers are brought before them. He's not making sure all of these things are happening, which the Constitution protects us. Or our God-given rights protect us, but the Constitution is the paperwork that was laid out to protect us. If an officer is not fighting tooth and nail for this case, for the truth to come out, then they're not good police. You guys, I've reported last week, I reported when one of the jurors was falling asleep. I went up to the U.S. Marshal and said, this number has fallen asleep off and on for most of the last 45 minutes. She has missed almost an entire testimony. In a jury trial, it's important your jurors are awake. What is the purpose of a jury trial if your jurors are not awake? And he told me it is not my responsibility. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? It is your responsibility because you swore an oath to uphold the Constitution and you're not doing it. It is their responsibility, and every officer who is not protecting the people before he honors his pledge to the blue line is not a good officer. Any officer who disarms somebody because they have a past felony is not a constitutional police officer. Any officer who searches your vehicle without a warrant is not a good police officer. Stop saying they're good police officers out there. Are there nice police officers out there? Yes. Yes, there are. But are they good? Are they good because they're nice? No. A good police officer upholds his oath to the Constitution and protects the American people from a tyrannical government. That's what a good police officer does. A good police officer protects my rights. That's what a good police officer does. We don't have good police officers right now. We have scared, terrified police officers who don't want to lose their jobs. Are they nice people? Yes. But are they cowards? Yes. They're cowards. They're not willing to lay their life on the line to do what is right. I don't want nice police officers. I want constitutional police officers who fight tooth and nail to protect my rights. I have to go get the rest of the kids from school. Ammon Bundy does not want a mistrial. Ryan Bundy does not want a mistrial. They want to be found not guilty because they're not guilty. Go and tell somebody about this today. Do your part to speak out against the injustice and the kangaroo court system that we're witnessing here in Oregon. Go and tell somebody where their tax dollars are being spent. And do your part today to uphold the Constitution and protect your neighbors' God-given rights.